On this week's episode, the amazing, powerful, and mighty Tami McQueen, co-founder of 31 South. Tami, you made it.
I know, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
So excited to have you. So, you know, as far as the world who already, the few people that haven't heard your story, the few people that haven't heard about the journey, they definitely need to. You're amazing. You're doing huge things in the business world and a lot of different avenues, and I want to just share your story a little bit more. So if you could tell the world a little about Tami McQueen.
Of course, thank you so much. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa, specifically a small town called Benoni. No one goes there, no one leaves.
Okay.
It's a really small town, and I grew up playing tennis competitively in South Africa, and I was absolutely adamant at one point that I would leave Benoni and play in America.
Okay.
And that was my goal. That's all that it was geared toward growing up, that I would play tennis overseas and play professionally. And I remember I was about 10 years old, and I would stand on the edge of my bed every night before climbing into bed, and I would sing the Star Spangled Banner. I was a little South African, my poor parents had no idea.
Yep.
And you know, I was just adamant that I would, you know, come to the US. And have a few stories along the way.
Sure.
I'm sure we'll get into those.
Yeah.
But there's a point at which you reach 5'2", and you're just not going pro.
Okay.
And so I had the opportunity to play in college, and so I received a scholarship to play Division I at a small school in Western Kentucky.
Okay. Culture shock, huh?
Culture shock from Johannesburg. Even though tiny little Benoni, it's part of the metropolitan of Johannesburg, which is 10 million plus.
Yeah, it's a city.
It's massive. Yeah. And so went to Murray, Western Kentucky, and I was this novel foreigner, this novel
stuck out like
South
a sore thumb.
African. Yes, I stuck out like a sore thumb. It sounded really funny. And I was the first in my family to go to college.
That's awesome.
And so this was something really new, not only leaving the country at 17, but also going to college in a city, in a town that you could not even buy beer on a Sunday. And so...
No fun, Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky. And so I went to Murray for college, started my undergrad in marketing.
Okay.
I was one of the few that just knew I wanted to be in marketing. That's where I wanted to start my studies, and I stayed in that route and played tennis, had the opportunity to travel the country, which was absolutely incredible. We played Division I, we went to NCAA championships.
Oh, wow.
We won our conference.
Yep.
And had the opportunity to really root in a team and see what it was like. Because growing up, playing tennis is very much an individual sport.
Yep.
And diving into this team aspect was something really unique to see. And that was interesting. Did undergrad, went through grad school. So I had a semester of eligibility left.
Okay.
So I went straight into grad school. And for some rhyme or reason, they thought I was ready to leave once I finished grad school, and I was 21, and someone signed the certificate for me. So I was really, really young leaving college after my undergrad and grad school. And I thought, you know, just like every 21-year-old does, you know everything about the world and you're ready to take it on. And that's what I did. And dived into a marketing career very, very early days when Facebook wasn't a thing, Twitter wasn't, all automated marketing was not around. And dived into creating little communities through newsletters and blogs. I started blogging. And soon, with the rise of social media kicked in, so too did the sort of resistance from companies shifting into that, dare I say, digital transformation. And that's where companies started going. And so over the next 10 years, I spent my career in marketing and then specifically in software.
So there's a lot of, I want to jump back a little bit too, because there's some amazing stories along the way. But the first piece I want to touch on is you had this knowing or this confidence in what you believed in your dreams, all the way from singing the Star Spangled Banner on your bed, which that must have, are there any videos of that existing, VHS tapes?
I hope so, somewhere maybe, if I go home.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. And then from there, it was playing tennis and then getting into marketing. So how did you have this belief system? Like, how was that built into you? And where did that come from?
A lot of people have asked, how have I just been really focused and determined on what I would accomplish? And it's funny, I think I've always just had this innate sort of desire that I would just get things done. Only child, raised on a level of perfectionism.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of it was me just striving that I could prove myself.
Yep.
And it was just a sense of, this is what I was going to do. I was reading Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking at 12 years old.
That's definitely not the norm for a 12-year-old.
No,
but that's awesome.
I had these little sticky notes and around my whole room, and like, yes, you can do this. And then through tennis training, went through some incredible programs. I played at IMG in Florida.
Okay, I've heard of this, IMG,
really remarkable program. And the psychological training that you go through, you leave there believing you are a champion. You absolutely walk onto that court and you have the sense of knowing that you can win and that you will win. And it's really what I found just in staying in the game is so important. No matter what I've gone through, from college to starting a career where I don't know anyone, or in a city that I don't have a network, and really focus on building that network. But I couldn't phone mom and dad from across the half the world to ask for help. And it's sort of this understanding that if you stay in the game, it's easier to get through that than to get out and try to get back in.
Right. Stay the course.
Whether that is sport, or whether it is business, or whether it's relationships, you've got to stay in the game. And I've always just been really determined to, if I set my mind to something, to just stay the course with it. And I think it's just one of those things. Yes, absolutely, I want to give up along the way. Absolutely, I want to throw in the towel. But when you think back and remind yourself of what all you've accomplished, or how far you've come, and I think there's just that idea of you haven't come this far just to come this far.
Right. Jesse Itzler says that a lot. Jesse Itzler is always talking about it. He runs a mastermind, Build Your Life Resume, or I think that's what it's called. And you're very familiar with him, but he's always saying in his talks, I didn't come this far only to come this far. Like, it's time to keep moving, going. I want to talk about, because you have, you're a marketing maven guru, like all the terminology that can be thrown at you, but you really have done some amazing things, which we'll talk about in a little while. This will kind of be a precursor to those things, but you're also really great with relationship and people skills. And want to talk about the time when you were younger and you were like hustling, selling, Michael Jackson, all these things.
Hustle.
I want to hear that story.
The hustle started young. Hustle started young. And I'll take you before that. I had a failed business before the Michael Jackson.
Let's hear about the failed business. And how old were you with the failed business?
The failed business, I was 8.
Okay.
8 years old.
What is this business?
I started Pro Pooch People.
Pro Pooch People.
Pro Pooch People.
Doesn't roll off the tongue, but it's 3 P's.
Pro Pooch People. And I remember I had little business cards, paper, and I had I think 16 printed on the paper in magenta Comic Sans.
Okay.
Yeah. Pro Peach People.
Yep.
I had the landline because we had landline, no cell phones.
Sure.
Landline, and I would take care of your dogs. And I would also be a grooming service for your dogs.
Wow.
At 8 years old. I had no idea how to
Took on a lot,
And I went around the neighborhood handing out all these cards of mine under people's doors, in their mailboxes.
Get them in the house,
And what I started to find is that I was not getting any deals because my mom would answer the landline and they said, "Is this Pro Peach People?" And no, you got the wrong number. She put it down, and it kept happening.
Blocking you from your sales and connections.
And eventually she asked, "What's going on?" And she said, and they realized that her daughter had been giving out these business cards for a business she had no idea about. So she shut that down really quickly.
I bet she did. Yeah. Want to protect her daughter,
exactly. So I thought, okay, well, I need to, really limit the risk I have at my point of entry. So while I was practicing my tennis against the garage door, poor neighbors listening to the ricochet of the door.
Like consistent, just thudding, boom,
Yes,
boom. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I had a little table, a little fold-out plastic table that when I needed a break, I had that set at the bottom of the driveway. And I had my boom box. I mean, just old school boom box.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had an extension cord all the way into the garage. And I had one cassette tape. Well, I think my parents probably had a Frank Sinatra
Sure.
and B.B. King, but I was,
The good stuff, yeah.
Mine was Michael Jackson.
Okay.
And so...
Which one was it? Was it Thriller?
Bad.
It was bad. Okay.
Oh, it
Nice.
was bad.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I had that set up. And I would watch people walking by, going to the train station, because in the afternoon, after school.
Yeah.
And so I would call them off the streets.
Yeah.
Excuse me, come on. And I would bring them in and say, you can listen to any song you like. 50 cents, Michael Jackson.
Just hustling.
Yes, straight hustling. And then that was a low point of entry. But if you want to really sing and dance to the song, double the fee.
There you go.
And I was hustling. A couple of weeks later, they'd listen to every song on the 8-track.
Yeah.
So I really needed to figure out what else am I going to do.
More services, more things to sell.
More services.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went back inside and I started looking what wouldn't be noticeable that I took from the house.
Borrowing. Yeah.
Yes, I got a few little knickknacks. I was like, Mom will never notice that. A few little knick-knacks.
Yep.
I put that on my spread, on my table.
Yep.
And I'd sell a few of those goods. And then I had repeat customers. Okay, so they'd not only listened to a song, they danced with the song, they bought a couple knickknacks. I probably made them a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yes. And so then I was like, I've got to do something special.
Yep.
So someone would walk past and I'd be like, oh, it's Veronica. I have something special for you today.
Yeah.
And so I'd run inside, and I'd grab that big leather-bound encyclepedia with a gold embossing on it. I'd pull the V carefully out, squash them together so you wouldn't see that nothing was missing. And I'd run back outside, look, I've got a book just for you with the letter of your name on it.
Yep.
With nothing in there that says anything about Veronica.
Just the letter V.
Letter V.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all she needed.
Sell it to her.
Yep.
And a few of those went missing before that business was shut down very quickly and I was shipped off to boarding school.
Oh, no way. Seriously? Did you go to boarding school?
I did.
Yeah?
I went to boarding school.
Okay.
I went to a tennis academy.
Okay.
Which I wouldn't call it necessarily a very strict boarding school uniform, there for manners and whatnot. I was there for tennis.
Okay.
But I was at a town called Pretoria. It's the capital of South Africa.
Okay.
And there was a tennis academy there, and it was in Afrikaans, so my second language for Afrikaans.
Okay.
And so I went, and it was very intensive tennis. And
how so? Like, what was the regimen like every day?
we woke up 6 o'clock. We would go for a run, some early training.
Yep.
Then we would go to classes, very small group, less than 10 people.
Okay. Yep.
We would go to classes. We had tutors on site, and then we would play tennis the whole day.
So just everything was geared towards the betterment of that skill set, essentially.
All geared to you are going to go play pro.
Yep.
And somewhere along the line between 14 and 16, no one really paid attention to my height.
Uh-oh. Kind of you started
Okay.
capped out at 5'2".
I was doing okay. Top 10 in South Africa, I was doing okay.
Yeah. That's
And-
impressive. So top 10, are you being humble? Like, where in the top 10 were you? What was the highest or lowest, essentially, you ever got?
And I was probably around 5 to 10.
So kind of in the middle?
In the middle, yeah.
And then, okay.
In the middle.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And how many people are in the country total?
Oh, there's 58 million.
Just 58 million.
58 million, not sure how many
Top
of that
5 or 10.
that percentage are playing tennis.
Right. But even if 100,000 are playing tennis, it's incredible.
Yeah, it was a great accomplishment, and you couldn't really set up a table when you were at the.
You couldn't sling anymore.
Anything. So that was the start of my real hustle, trying to sell things.
Yeah.
Building community was started young.
Yep.
When new neighbors came into the neighborhood and settled down, I would grab something out the fridge and take cookies over next door. Welcome them. I always wanted to be that person that could connect people.
Yeah.
And I think this is such an innate human trait where you want to be able to connect people.
Yes.
It's that saying, it's like, I got a guy.
Yep.
I got a guy.
Yep, I've done that to you a few times. I've connected with a few people.
Exactly. And I think it's just a human tendency to want to build community, and the more organic it is, the more real it feels.
Yep.
And I think that's just been something that's so passionate to me. It's like, let me connect so many different people.
I've realized too by doing this that like in my wealth management business, there are people that are becoming friends outside of clients, and they're all starting to know each other. So like I have one guy that does, he has one occupation, another guy has another occupation. They're working together because they can help each other, and we're all brought together. Like I introduced them to, and like they know. Now it's like you're building like this little conglomerate of friends / people that you want in your life. It's really cool to do it that way.
It's so cool to do it that way, and to really bring different walks of life together.
For sure, yeah.
And even when you have little holiday parties or parties throughout the year, bringing different groups together, I love watching the organic interactions and how that all works together.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So now, kind of like a really good Quentin Tarantino movie, like jumping kind of from piece and place to place. So now you get through Western Kentucky, you get through college, and then your next stop was at Georgia, or did you go somewhere else first?
Into Dallas for a couple years.
Texas?
Texas, yeah. And then moved to Atlanta. It will be 10 years now in a couple months.
Happy anniversary.
10 years, thank you.
Incredible.
And Atlanta has been a long time. The city's been really good to me.
Yep.
It's felt like a true home.
Love it here.
Atlanta's a really incredible city. I can spill facts about Atlanta like that, and I love it. I'm a huge...
So you're good for trivia, like take you to trivia when it comes to Atlanta night.
Good trivia, Atlanta. That's it. That's all we can do. And I'm a fan of the city. I'm really proud of what it's accomplished. I've seen the transition over the past decade, and I'm really impressed with where it's going. Second fastest growing economy in the US.
I believe it.
It's really remarkable, and it's been a good home for me. I moved here, really planted roots in my career specifically, and got into the B2B software as a service space. And have really stayed in that space from a marketing perspective. I had the opportunity to join a remarkable startup in the very, very early days.
Was this your first iteration into business? Like, was it like, did you have any other career or job before this, or was it just straight into the startup?
So I went from corporate America, very much buttoned up marketing, nothing. You don't step out of line. Really learned the fundamentals of marketing, like what you need to do, what does work, what doesn't work, and understand marketing from that perspective. And then really going through that red tape, the hurdles, trying to jump through, bringing an entire corporate America into the digital era. Just from simple things like updating your website or having a dynamic website from desktop to mobile. From bringing, just not even getting to social media yet, but just the automated marketing and understanding who you're talking to. Just simple things like that, and went through that, mind that cliche, the digital transformation. And then diving into, I went into academia. So I was with a large academic institution in Atlanta, and worked with them from bringing the entire traditional, rooted in excellence for many, many years, digital. Everything from their calendar, starting social media, to their blogging and creating an online community and weaving that into that alumni base, which is so powerful. But how tough is it to stay connected when you're sending them a magazine once a quarter? So really creating and fostering that relationship from an online perspective. From there, I went back into corporate. And really understood both sides of it, and started bringing in a little bit more software technology into the marketing sphere, and started playing a little around with that. At that time, I started showing up to every single startup event in Atlanta.
Awesome. So it attracted you to get out there and meet some of these founders and the new things that were changing in the world.
Exactly. So got out there, very early days, just went to every event at the Atlanta Tech Village. I had a lot of coffees with people.
I bet.
I asked a lot of questions. I went to just about every conference, and I started building a community in a very different space. It was during one of those events that I would meet my soon-to-be CEO at the startup.
Wow. How did that interaction go? How did you connect?
I just walked up to two gentlemen that was standing talking that I'd somewhat seen in the news a little bit. I was like, introduced myself, asked what they were doing. They had just returned from Techstars, which is an incredible accelerator and incubator that takes very, very early stage startups, tech startups, and they put them through a rigorous program and everything they need to raise money, marketing, sales, the works. They'd just come back from that very impressive background, having done that, and they said they weren't ready for marketing just yet. I was like, oh,
it's usually like the last thing to be picked up and the first thing to go for a lot of businesses for some reason. And it shouldn't be that way.
No, exactly. 6 months later, I get a message on LinkedIn that says, hey, we're ready for marketing. Come to the Atlanta Tech Village, check out the offices, and we can go from there. So off I go to the Atlanta Tech Village. It's a sparkling new building in Atlanta. And I walk in, and it's just like you would see on the movies and TV, everything about startup world. Now, this is 5-6 years ago now. So this is very unique. It's not like now you walk into a shared office space and that's the norm. It was not the norm 6 years ago.
What were some of the things you saw when you were there?
Scooters everywhere. What is this nonsense? Beer on tap? Scooters? How on earth are you possibly
go play
doing
versus
business?
go to
How
work,
are you doing
right?
business? And beanbags? Like, what is this nonsense? And I just said, no, thank you.
So you weren't attracted to that?
No.
I would have been.
No, I'm from corporate marketing, dressed in a suit every day. And people are wearing jeans and drinking beer. I'm like, what is this nonsense?
Is there any work getting done?
No, count me out. Cut a long story short, you sold the dream about this rocket ship and don't ask, what seat, just climb on.
Just get in.
Just get in. And that's exactly what I did. And it was the most incredible experience in my career.
Wow.
And it really catapulted me into a marketing sphere that I am incredibly grateful for.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you're part of this exciting, kind of lifestyle and growing something. And so what was next for 31 South? What are some of the next things that you did in terms of places you went, people you met, things that you've built, things you've worked on?
Sure. So after being with the startup for 4 years and seeing their growth just in exponential ways, having the opportunity to push the boundaries in marketing, I really wanted to do that for myself. And so with that, 2.5 years ago, started 31 South with 2 other founders that had done something very similar in the market as well, and we're ready to take on something new. And so we were either going to be competing against each other or come together and create a real force to be reckoned with. And that's what we did. And so the real goal behind starting 31 South was to create incredible, memorable experiences for people in marketing, because it's not so much about that science of marketing that gets people bogged down so much. And I feel like we've lost that art of marketing. And so we really want to focus on that creative side and really bring people to have an experience that they can't forget. And that in turn finds the need to sell a product.
And you've created a couple of those that are super noteworthy that you always talk about. Can you share those with the folks in terms of like the money guns and or the guy from Salesforce? Was
yes.
Benioff?
So a few different campaigns we did was the lookalike Benioff campaign. And so we took the CEO of Salesforce during Dreamforce, which is 120,000 plus people that all descend over San Francisco for a week. Typically in late fall.
Like Woodstock for tech and for startups. It seems like it's crazy.
Everything possible for startups, from startups to enterprise are there. Everyone who's who in the tech world is there. And so decided to run a campaign where we had a very limited budget. And so what we did was we said, okay, we will host a campaign of sorts where we would take the CEO of Salesforce, and I put out an ad on Craigslist in San Francisco from Atlanta looking for a lookalike Marc Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce. Why? Because I knew that the PR team would pick up on it. They'd have a Google alert, this is what someone was doing, so there'd be a little bit of traction, they'd create some buzz, what's happening. Anyway, we then we couldn't find one, of course, and found someone in Atlanta who happened to be a spitting image of the CEO.
Wow, how cool is that?
Asked him to come with us, random call, imagine receiving that call. And he came.
How did he receive it at first? Like, was he think it was a joke? Was he like on board right away? Like,
Oh, he was like, count me in.
Like, just excited.
Phenomenal gentleman. He's the founder of an incredible recruiting agency out of Atlanta.
Okay.
Phenomenal guy. And took him over there. We didn't really have a plan of action.
Sure.
We just knew this is what we were going to do.
Had an outline, general outline.
General outline. There was a lot of gray area.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we went out there, knew what he had to get dressed up in. Benioff has a pair of Converse shoes that have the Salesforce cloud in Swarovski crystals on the shoes.
Okay. He wears these?
I got a pair of black Converse.
Yeah.
And I got blue glitter glue. And I made the Salesforce cloud in blue glitter glue on the shoes.
How did it look? Did it
looked great.
Yeah?
Great.
Sure.
From afar, it looks great.
Yeah.
Did that. I dressed up as the PR person, and we realized we needed some special security earphones.
Yep.
So we went around to the little corner bodega and found these headphones, old headphones, cut them on either side, took each little one, wound it around a little bobby pin so it would get squiggly, squiggly earpiece, put it in, tucked it into my shirt, gave the other one to our sales guy, the only sales guy we had on the team at the time.
Sure.
He was dressed up in a black suit, looked sharp. He put it in his ear, tucked it into his shirt. We made sure the wire wasn't sticking out.
Right, yeah. The jig would be up.
Yes, he looked very professional, and it was me and him.
Yep.
Nowadays, this guy rolls with a heavy 20 pack behind
20
him.
deep, yeah.
Yeah. We had me, the PR person, and one security guy who was smaller than Benioff.
Not so imposing, but
but we did our background, and so we looked at all the startups that were exhibiting, who Benioff had invested in.
Okay.
And then we also mapped on the entire expo conference map where different things were going to be. But we made sure we went the opposite direction of where the real Benioff was going.
Right, you didn't want to run into him.
We didn't want to run into him. And there was a point where he was up on the outside stage being interviewed, and we walked right past.
Wow.
And we ducked behind a tree very quickly.
Yeah, I believe it.
But we would go up and we'd create this buzz, and we'd shake hands and we'd take photos. And
what's the reception in the crowd of people meeting?
They're loving it.
Are they buying into it?
Yes, they're buying
think
into it. Yes, security's letting us through.
Golden ticket, just go wherever you want.
We went everywhere. I mean, Mark.
Did you use it like just go outside of this moment for a second? Did you use it later on that week while you were there to get into any parties or any cool stuff? Like, this is Benioff, you gotta let us in. Like, did that didn't work for you? Okay.
No, we knew we had to stay focused.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Eye on the prize, and so then we were walking around, we were getting people to take selfies, we were asking the other Atlanta crew that were out there to retweet, share it as well, help us get some momentum. Yes. Anyway, one day we had climbed into this car exhibition where there were all the brand new cars, and they were climbing in, taking photos with him, so excited. Well, after the second day, we'd now worn out, we're tired. What's next? What on earth do we do with it? So we're walking back to the booth, and here we see the real Benioff climbing into the same cars we got in yesterday.
Yeah.
So it was almost one of those moments where we looked, big eyes, they looked at us, his 20 deep pack, and we're like, oh no, what do we do? The jig is up, We just stood looking, and they come running over to us. They're like, we know what you're doing. It's like, what now? Like, Mark wants to meet you. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Anyway, so we wait very patiently. We're so excited. We're calling everyone to come take photos. And he comes over and says, I know what you're doing. I hear you've been taking some meetings for me, taking a load off my plate. So he was cool with it. He was cool with it. He loved it because he is that marketer that has done a lot of these spiffs and pushed the boundaries.
He recognized the hustle. He was excited about it.
Recognized the hustle by a tiny little startup that no one knew anything about. And that was a lot of fun. I came back. How does it tie to the brand? It did not really at the time. It was a small activation that we thought. But I told the story over a blog. And we got thousands of hits on that. And that story has been told over and over and over many years later. And I think the power in marketing is about what can you create that is told time and time again. I can't even tell you how many times I've told that story.
Sure.
If I had $1 for every time I told that story, I'll never have to do anything like that ever
Just
again.
Keep telling the story, yeah.
Exactly. And it was such a remarkable experience that it created that buzz where it wasn't necessarily about what we did in that moment, but about what are they going to do again?
What's going to happen next?
What's next? And it became this whole vibe around that idea of exciting marketing that no one had been doing at all.
So what happened next? Was it the money guns? Was that the next big thing?
Yeah, that was the next big thing. The next year we did at Dreamforce as well, Benioff 2020. It was before the kickoff to the next presidential race. And this was 2015. And so we created this whole idea about creating this presidential campaign. We created buttons and flags and the works. And so we really invested in this. And so that was something that, you know, went viral because a television actor had picked it up and tweeted about it, and it absolutely went wild.
Wow. Didn't you say this actor was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, I'll back you or I'll be your running mate?
Yes, I'll be your running mate. And at that time, it was like no one really knew what we were doing. And so Salesforce was like, oh gosh, this is not something we want to be, this is not a message we want out there.
Right.
And so they were scrambling. And by the time they realized what was going on, all the buttons had been distributed. Thousands upon thousands of them.
Too late at this point.
Oh, it was way too late at this point. And they handed me a cease and desist.
Did they really?
Yes.
Wow.
They did.
Okay.
And they're like, you've got to stop it. I was like, the button's all gone.
I have no more to give out.
They're all gone. Sorry. So yeah, that was one of those. And you know, the next thing, it was just creating different experiences and starting conferences as well, where I love to start a conference off in a unique way. When I started doing this, no one was doing it. No one brought in a drum line to kick off a conference in the morning. Now it's dime a dozen. You see it often. But no one was doing that. No one would kick it off. Everyone would walk onto the stage, welcome to such and such conference. We're so glad you're here. We're gonna let's go over some housekeeping items.
Super boring.
Same thing over and over, and then everyone gets on their cell phone to go through their emails and on social media. And so what I really wanted to do is to create this idea of like, I am so fired up to be here. I also want to make sure I'm never late for this conference. Is what's going to happen. The first year I brought in the Atlanta Falcons drumline.
Okay, awesome.
Didn't tell anyone, and brought Freddie the Falcon with as well.
Wow.
Turned off all the lights and flipped them on once everyone was seated, and off they came through the aisles.
Incredible.
Incredible experience.
Energy in the audience probably went up.
The energy, it kicks off the day. It's phenomenal.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice.
Next year, brought in a gospel choir and really just had these songs that, you know, ain't no mountain high enough. It was just like
inspirational.
Really, it gets people on their feet and fired up for the day. It's also great for social media, a little bit of FOMO, why aren't I there?
Yeah, that's right.
And then the next year did a stomp group. So I mean, they like sweeping the floors, and then there's like trash cans, and then there's angle grinders with the sparks flying everywhere. It gets people fired up.
Sure. All these remarkable, memorable, like just unbelievable, even like industry somewhat changing. Like if people are doing these things now they weren't doing before, and it all kind of stemmed in your narrative of like just making these experiences for yourself and for other people. So talking a little bit more about the entrepreneurial side of all this, because that's like, you know, obviously that is entrepreneurial minded and it's creative and all these different things, but what's your mindset around being an entrepreneur and some of the, we could even talk about some of the hurdles you've had to overcome, some of the obstacles you've overcome, and like what are some of your tools that you pull out to get you through those times?
I think it's interesting. When I took the proverbial leap into entrepreneurship, I didn't really understand the entire landscape or what I was getting myself into per se. And I think it's really interesting. There is a very tight-knit community around founders. that when they start something and you open up to them, they're very open to sharing what struggles they've gone through or what they've been going through. And I think that's incredible how that really works. And I remember diving in and just having absolutely no clue that whether it is about taxes or cash flow or just the straight up hustle.
Yeah.
And I found that when you are running for yourself and when you are part of a small co-founder team, is that the hustle does not sleep.
Never does.
It never does. There is not a moment that I'm not thinking about, where's the next deal?
Yep.
Who am I going to work with next? How am I going to run something? And it just doesn't stop. And that can become incredibly tiring and incredibly draining.
And almost unfulfilling because you feel like you're never complete. Like you feel like there's always something happening.
There's always something next and always something you've got to do more of.
Yep.
And so I learned very quickly that if I burn out, which I did, that I am absolutely useless to the team and everyone else. Yeah, I remember this moment distinctly. I was walking through the terminal in the Atlanta airport, which is mayhem if you've been through that terminal.
World's biggest airport in terms of,
And I remember looking up, wondering, am I landing to go home or am I here to hop on a flight to go somewhere?
Wow.
And I just in that moment just had to reorientate myself of what on earth is going on here. And I was absolutely exhausted. I hadn't been going to gym, I hadn't been working out.
No self-care.
No, none whatsoever. It was working ungodly hours, going to an event every single night, and burning the candle at both ends, up early, not eating a good, healthy diet. And I was absolutely worn out. I was incredibly stressed. I was having spitting migraines that would put me out for 36 hours. I think it was my body's only response to actually getting me to slow down. And I realized at that time that we have a professional team that we put together for our lives. We have our accountant, we have our attorneys, we have all these different partners that we have that we build our lives with professionally. But we don't specifically do that for our personal lives. We have our family, but do we have a chiropractor per se? Do we have a personal trainer? Or do we have a gym membership that's built a community around that? Or do you have a therapist that you go see? What is your mental health like? And these are all things, and I started building this personal team that would take care of me. Not a personal assistant, but someone that would really help me in other areas that I would be my whole self going into what I was doing, because I was useless otherwise if I was not bringing my full self.
You have to be fit to be able to run the race of entrepreneurship. It's a lot of work.
In the game.
Emotional, mental, physical. There's a lot. And if you're not mentally fit or physically fit, it makes it much harder.
Absolutely. And I joke about saying, you know, the jet set life is sometimes the middle seat on Southwest Airlines. And social media has created such a facade of where we live today, where my Instagram grid looks absolutely glamorous. But let me tell you, the real work is done behind the scenes.
For sure. For sure.
And no one sees that you're at the airport at 5 a.m. for your 7 a.m. flight so that you can get work done just in case the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Or that you leave a family gathering to go sit in a bathroom to take a call. Or no one sees that you're up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. just so that you can get stuff done or go on a trip or do that. No one sees that hustle. No one sees that maybe cash flow isn't great, so you are flying Spirit Airlines or you are flying Southwest and you forfeit the so-called points that you should have. And so yes, it is a slice of what it looks like, but the real work is done behind the scenes. And I think what is so interesting is that, and I laugh about this too, and I joke about saying, yes, some days I've got this and I feel like an empowered CEO, co-founder, whatever that may be. And other days I want to pack all my belongings into a backpack, which do I even own a backpack, to, you know, go to a remote island in the South Pacific to sell coconuts on the beach. And and the highs are incredibly high and the lows are incredibly low, and finding that middle to where you play in that game every single day is really tough. And I think there is a struggle in that. There is that struggle that you have to commit to waking up every single day. It's like, I'm going to struggle, or I'm going to stay in this fight, whether it is a great day, we're on a high, or it's on the low. And it's finding that middle ground and just committing every single day to doing that. And I think it is a struggle. And I think what's so important is having that personal team and that professional team and melding those together. So whether you are working with a coach, whether you are working with a personal trainer, or you have that relationship with these people, or your financial planner, or your true team, is having that open communication that will get you through those lulls, but also celebrate those highs with you as well.
Yeah, you want community is your narrative, and it's most people's narrative. I mean, you don't, they say that you come into this world by yourself and you leave by yourself, but during the ride, you want that candle to burn bright with like community and relationships, and you want to be involved in things. And if there's no one to enjoy it with, yes, there's being an entrepreneur. A lot of time it's you're kind of doing your own thing and you're on your own, but you need to be able to come together during those times where it's hard, and you can have your support system, whether they're friends, family, or those professionals you speak about. But you also want to be able to celebrate those things as well, and have people that understand what it took for you to get there. Because what's it all for if you don't do that, right? I mean, you can go work 100 hours a week, make a ton of money, but if you're not doing anything with that in terms of sharing it or helping people or being a part of other people's lives, it's a really lonely journey. Especially entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship can be super lonely when you're working on something, building something, facing something, putting out fires, like all the non-glamorous stuff. You got to find a way to have that community. So
absolutely. For sure.
So now with what you're doing today in almost 2020, which is crazy to talk about.
Amazing.
Right? Hindsight's in front of us for the first time in human history, which is crazy to think about. And just like 2020, I've never thought, that just seems like a really weird thing to think about, that we're just almost there. But we're already almost there. So what is the end of 2019 looking like for you personally, for 31 South, and then also moving into 2020? What are some of the goals, the exciting things happening next year?
I am so excited to finish this year. It has definitely been a year that stretched me in many ways that I never thought were possible. And from now and through the end of the year, it is a mad dash. It is a hustle to pour everything I possibly can. I like to think about leaving everything possible on the floor, so that you can't look back and think, I wish I did something else. I wish I'd tried harder. I wish I gave a little bit extra. And what I would tell everyone to do is that when you finish 2019, you have 6 weeks left, is that make sure you leave nothing on the floor, leave nothing in question, so that you can, when you ring in the new year, say, I gave it everything I could.
That's right.
And I think that's important for me, whether that is on the business side, on relationship side, really connecting with folks that I may not have nurtured those relationships as much this year with the hustle, the complete hustle, the go, the travel. It makes it hard. And I'm really focused on committing to connecting with those people that have always been in my corner, and really showing the love and really appreciating what they've done, and that they've always been champions. And then also preparing for 2020, really setting intentions for what I hope to accomplish, the person that I strive to be. What do I want to improve upon? I don't ever feel like I'm there. I don't ever feel like I'm that guru or that maven. There's always more for me to do and to give back.
For sure.
And I'm also looking at how I can help others. Who can I pull up on that ladder as well? I want to always be a door opener for people. I remember those who opened the doors for me, and it's important that I want to be a door opener for people. So really being intentional about my communication, intentional about the people that I spend the time with, and really being protective of my time.
Have to be.
Protective of my time, to be intentional with the things that mean the most. And then setting goals around growing 31 South, and understanding what that looks like and how can we be the best versions of ourselves and bring that together as a collective team.
That's awesome.
So excited about the new year, ready to see this one close and go into a new decade.
Yep.
It's remarkable to think that we're here and what we've done, and just to really keep pushing and not settle. I'm fearful of mediocrity. If someone asks me what I'm fearful of, that's something I always say, because I don't want to feel comfortable. I want to feel like I can really make a movement on that.
Yeah, they say good is the enemy of great, right?
Exactly.
If you get complacent, you feel like, oh, I'm doing good, but you're not great.
Exactly.
So when you look for inspiration or people to kind of plug into, and it can even be like, people that have podcasts, people that are thought leaders, people that are industry, titans, who are the people that you go to, and what are some of the things that you take from those types of people whenever you're trying to level up in relationships, health and wellness, business, whatever it might be?
Yeah, goes back to that core sort of group of people that I love what you said recently about you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I keep that very close. And what I've learned to be in entrepreneurship is that what you see is not always the reality.
Yep.
And so when you can connect with those people, you're getting the truth. I have a couple of advisors that I go to very consistently. They are trusted. I know that I can bring my whole self to the conversation.
Yep.
I don't need to hold anything back. And the advice is not you should do this. It helps shape the thinking that I do.
Think about it differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically in business, health and wellness, I like to keep an open mind.
Sure.
And looking at different opportunities out there, different mindset, different things that are going out there, and ascribe to things that are different diets or exercise regimes.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of David Goggins, Jesse Itzler, ATL guy, and a few others that have really inspired. Ray Dalio.
Oh yeah.
I'm really big on audiobooks, so I'm really enjoying reading a few different books.
Have you read or listened to Principles?
I'm working my way through the 11-hour audiobook.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. I love that. Also, listening to a few business books that stretch beyond marketing, that are not the typical track. So it allows me to expand that knowledge into different areas. So if I'm a long drive, pop in an audiobook, pop in a podcast. And I encourage people to go beyond their industry, go beyond what they know.
Yep.
If you're in marketing, maybe listen to some sales podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm listening to right now some venture capital podcasts.
Awesome.
Which is really helping me understand both sides of it.
Yep.
And so I encourage people to look beyond their industry. If you're looking at your competition, you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
So you're going to be doing the same thing.
I think the big thing is, regardless of what industry you're in, if you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of core tenets that they transcend industry.
Yes, of
Work
course.
ethic, mindset, growth mentality, and it seems like anyone who's an entrepreneur that's doing well, they have to be growth minded. They have to be open to change. They have to be adaptable. They have to be, but also steadfast in their beliefs, but learn when they're maybe not doing things as well as they could, and look at things differently. So I think that's huge. In terms of, people that will be listening or watching the show, what's a good mindset piece or go home message for them in terms of whether it's your journey or whether it's something they can use in the back of their minds to get through a circumstance that may not be ideal? Just kind of like a mindset for the entrepreneurs that maybe, or business leaders that may be listening or watching.
Yeah, that's a great question. Ask for help sooner than you think you need to.
Okay.
Ask for help, stay in the game, and understand that you will get through this. You will get through it. Ask for help and lean on people. Get through that ego. Ask for help and realize it's okay to ask for help.
Yep.
You're human. It connects you to people. You don't know how others can help you. And I think that's really important. Ask for help sooner than you can.
I love it. That's great. And as far as people finding you, 31 South, anything that you're doing, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on social media. Local at Last is my handle across the board. And then 31south.io.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. She's the amazing, mighty, powerful Tami McQueen of 31 South. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show. Take care.